my guest today is Eric Testerman. He was in the film Byways of Bigfoot that we filmed along the Niangua River in Missouri, along with areas of his actual property. And we did a lot of filming out that direction. We found some evidence of Bigfoot with trackways. We found limbs down, and we actually put some things out on the property as well. But a lot has changed. We haven't filmed out there for about 9 months or maybe a little longer, and a lot has changed. So I'm going to ask Eric to bring us up to date with what's happening on his property at this time.
Yeah. So when I moved Ron Bowles had me putting a camera up, one of my game cameras up facing the direction where we had that stuff laid out. I had like no activity for a long time. So eventually I stopped trying to do it. I put it back to where it was. And then a short time later, I go out there. The blue little jewels were taken. And every time I put them out, something would take them. They didn't pull them out of the jar, but they would take it that I had set out.
Well, let's first of all tell people what those blue jars were about. I know Ricky, my camera guy, and I came out and we set up some difficult to open boxes. We had some jars that would be really difficult to get the lids off of the jars, and we had some of these little blue like glass-like beads. They were bigger than beads. They were more like stones. In one of the jars. We had a variety of things, but that was one of the things, and that's what you're talking about, the jar that we set out there. And where exactly was that jar located?
So that was along the trail that came from the Niangua River heading towards my old place, actually right next to my rifle stand, which I had 2 game cams set up down in that area. So that was right in that area there. So
was it
we
up
had them on a stump?
It was on a stump?
Yeah, we had it on a stump. In fact, the jar was sitting inside of the stump. So every time I go out and check it, I'd see that some of them that I've taken out and put on top of the stump was gone, but the jar was still down in there. So I did that twice. And then this last time I came out, the stump had been ripped away where that jar was. That jar was sitting 4 foot from the stump. The lid was still off of it, or still on it. And the jewels that I had put on the stump was gone. One of the little bracelets we had sitting out, that was broken, laying on the ground at the stump. And your boxes, the plastic box was busted. Whatever got into it broke it. Got the peanut butter jar, the granola bars. I think our bracelet was in that. We had the necklace on the stump, if I remember correctly. And so, I mean, all this stuff was gotten into. The wooden box had been opened. Everything had been taken out of it. The granola wrappers were scattered all over the place. The peanut butter jar was licked clean. It had been opened. The seal had been perfectly ripped off of it. Didn't find, and that was sitting 20 feet from the stump. I couldn't find a lid for a long time. Then eventually I found a lid, but it was on the other side of the stump, about 5 or 6 feet away.
Hi, I'm Linda Eastburn of Linda Eastburn YouTube channel, and I have a new book out called Threshold to Encounters. It's about 40 years of research and experience with all of these wild cryptids that many of you I know have encountered yourself. You can find it on Amazon.com. Let's look at these, Eric, one at a time so we can kind of get an idea of what might have happened, because there's a lot of stuff here. The peanut butter jar was inside one of the boxes, but that box was ripped apart. It wasn't strategically opened. Is that right?
Correct. The lid was busted off of it.
Okay, so they got out the peanut butter jar, which was a brand new jar. It had not been opened before, so it was pretty tight. What do you think? I mean, what animal, what creature could have opened a peanut butter jar like that?
So, Baird, about the only 2 that I could think of out in nature that could do that. One, yes, a raccoon can do it. Otherwise, it'd be the big hairy fella himself, Bigfoot. That's about the only 2 creatures that I could think offhand that could take a lid off of a peanut butter jar.
So but the peanut butter was completely gone out of the jar.
Yeah, it's completely gone. And the seal was perfectly taken off. Like there was no remainder of the seal on the jar. I never did find the seal. I have no idea what happened to that little silver shiny seal. No
Hmm.
idea.
Okay.
I
And
couldn't find it.
how long was it between the last time you saw it and when you saw it in this where the box was torn up and the peanut butter was gone?
2 or 3 weeks.
Okay. So for during that 2 or 3 week period of time, something was on your property. Did you see any tracks around there or anything?
Yes, that the tracks I found, which I've got pictures of that. That's all on my YouTube channel. And I also sent you pictures of them. Those tracks is what led me to believe it's possibly Bigfoot who did this. Not along with just along with what everything we found, but the fact that I was finding about 9.5 to 10 foot tracks all over that area.
So, so you believe that Bigfoot probably came in there and found all of this and just made a meal out of it.
Yeah, and I believe whatever was left over, then a lot of other things came in and finished it off. But yeah.
Okay. And so what other activity have you seen out there recently?
Um, I actually had some samurai chatter a few months ago. And then when I got my parabolic mic that I got hooked up to a digital recorder set out there, sadly, because of the rain, it drowned it out and I couldn't pick it up. But I was sitting on my front porch. I love to sit out on my front porch at night. So I was just kind of sitting out there on the porch swing and I got to listen. I was like, I hear something that sounds like samurai chatter. That's the closest way I can describe it. I can't tell you for sure it was samurai chatter, but that's what registered in my brain. So I was like, oh man. So I ran inside, got my parabolic mic, hooked up my digital recorder to it, put the rubber band around the trigger. I set it outside, pointed in the direction I heard the sound. And then I came back inside. An hour later, I came back, shut it all down, listened to it. Not, it wasn't good, clear enough that I decided to post the video on it because you kind of hear something in it, but it can be easily mistaken as the rain. So I didn't, I just dropped it off. I just counted as I didn't get the recording. So the next day, I decided to go out into this location. This is down in the bottoms, around the area where Ron Bold done that call. It's a little further down than that. So when I got down there, I found quite a few interesting things. One, I found a tree stump that I don't know how it got there. I mean, yes, we'd had rains and floods, but where it was at, it would have to go literally through a tree to rest where it's at. So that wasn't it. It could have rolled down the hill, but I had found no spot on the hill where it rolled came from, and it would have still once again had to go through the tree to lay where it's at. So I was like, okay, maybe we had a tornado, picked it up and set it here. Looked in my canopy. My canopy was not destroyed. My canopy was in good condition. So I was like, well, it kind of tells me it probably didn't fall from the sky. So I don't know how the stump got here, but it was right in that same area as that chatter. In that same location, I found several other strange stuff. I can't remember everything off the top of my head. I do have videos and pictures on YouTube on my channel for that. But there was like a tree, well, I remember a limb was woven in between three or four trees. So an actual tree was bent over, a small one, roughly an inch wide, was bent over and literally woven in between trees, like they were trying to make a basket.
You hadn't had any bad winds or storms or anything like that come through in that area?
There was storms that night, the night before, and there was winds. I don't think there were strong enough winds to cause that, but something could have happened when I was asleep. The only reason why I think that might be Bigfoot related also is because I found footprints in that area.
So you've got a lot more footprints even out there now than when we filmed Byways out that way.
Yes, yes. Things had calmed down quite a bit after filming there. If you recall, when we was coming out, I kept looking over towards the Niangua Riverside because I kept having this bad feeling like, what's going on here? Who's these people and why you're doing this type of feeling? Kind of they're upset. If you remember, me and Melissa both picked up on that.
I do.
And for like a couple months of that, I had like zero activity on my property. It was like we upsetted them. And I haven't had anybody back out since because of that. So eventually I started getting some activity coming back, slowly coming back again. and I've been kind of keeping it up, documenting what I can. And then now it's back to going full blown again. Especially since I moved that game cam back from where Ron Bowles had me put it up to where I originally had it, in that same area where we had that stuff laid out, where we found the pathways and we found all this other stuff. I found a little area that looks like a nest, like where you put a little baby. Then it's the perfect size of like a little baby.
Well, how
And you can see
describe that to me? What was the nest made of?
it was a bunch of trees and limbs all woven together, and kind of like almost like a dome. It wasn't a complete dome. It was just it was all woven together. In the front of it, you had an opening, and in the inside of it had an area where you can, baby's about the biggest thing to be able to fit in something like that. So that's right around in that area too, which I have a lot of that stuff on my YouTube channel as well. A lot more tree manipulations in that same area. A lot of activity right in that area where we was found that walkway with the 3 different footprint sizes.
Yeah, there was a lot of evidence right in that one little area. It looked like that trackway where they went on up the hill and back into that hollow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Actually, the tracks go all the way down that valley, up that valley to my old place where I talked to you when we talked the first time you interviewed me. I was telling you I used to sit in my chair and swear something was staring at me through the window, but couldn't see it. The footprints literally went up towards that window.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, there were 2 places we really explored out there. One was that, that ravine, that hollow down through there. And the other one was like completely on the other side of your house. And that's where the blackberry bushes were flattened out uphill. Did you notice anything this year with the blackberry bushes?
That space has gotten bigger. There's more spaces that's been flattened down like that. Same area.
Yeah. So it's been a while. So we've had quite a bit of time pass, and obviously they got into the peanut butter. Now that wooden box, it was a complicated box to get into. It had, all kinds of bells and whistles to try to maneuver to get any kind of a compartment open. What's happened with that box?
So that one that had the drop down latch, I stuck a little stick in there to hold that latch up because otherwise the door wouldn't stay down. We had some granola bars in there, just like we had, I think, 1 granola bar in that plastic one that the lid was broken off of, and we had like 1 or 2 in that wooden box, and we had that necklace in that wooden box, and something else I can't remember. I think we had a couple jewels in that box, wooden box as well. Well, that stick had been removed, that door was dropped down, and everything in that box was empty. It was gone.
So you never found the necklace or anything else from there?
I found the necklace. The necklace was 2 feet away from that stump on the ground. The granola wrappers were dropped in like 3 different places away from the stump. And so I picked the necklace up. I laid it back on the stump. So I was like, okay, I'm going to put this here and see what happens. So I hung it off that stump. I came back out again a couple weeks later. It had been picked up and moved 5 feet away from where that stump was. And then the day I found that peanut butter jar and stuff, the bracelet that looked just like the necklace, that was found that laying at the stump broken. That it had been pulled apart.
And so what happened with the blue beads? The blue beads were in a jar, is that right?
Yeah, the jar. So there was a crook in that stump that we had that jar sitting in. And I've came out there several times. The jar had been picked up and laid on the ground. It was taken out of that stump. If you remember right, on the south side of that stump, we had a nice big opening in between in the stump where we put that jar. It went down roughly 2 foot, and we just had it down in there. Twice that jar had been picked up and tossed to the side away from the stump, and nothing didn't seem like it was open. Everything was in it. So after the second time of seeing that, I decided that so maybe they're not liking this lid trick. So I opened it, took a couple out, put them on top of the stump, closed the lid back up, and put that jar back in that crook where we had it before. And 2 times after that, the jar remained where it was, but the little blue rubies disappeared. This last time I went out there, that little crook, that piece of section that was detached from the stump, was ripped away, and the jar was 4 foot away from where that stump was.
What would it have taken?
Um,
What kind of strength and power would it have taken to rip that stump apart?
I'd estimate roughly 20 pounds of pressure. I mean, because it was kind of half rotted, so it wouldn't have took a whole lot. Basically, something's going to have to grab it and pull it.
So was the jar down in there far enough in that stump that something wouldn't have been able to get to it without pulling the stump apart?
Yeah, you'd have to come from the top to grab it. Even though the sides were open, the sides wasn't wide enough the jar can come through it. You literally would have to come through the top, grab the jar, and pull it out.
And that jar was pretty good size. It was pretty big around,
Mhm.
wasn't it? Best I
Yeah,
recall.
yeah,
Not
yeah.
something that a small hand would have been able to hold. I mean, you'd have to have a fairly good grip to be able to get that jar
Mhm.
out. But the jar was still intact. It wasn't opened, right? It was
No,
just moved.
yeah,
So something would have had to have had the physical strength to rip that stump apart and then pick up the jar
yeah.
and toss it some over quite a ways.
Yeah, I'd say it probably got aggravated. Um, one of those times there's a lot of termites out there.
Mhm.
So my theory is maybe it ripped it off to get to the termites, and the jar was just in its way. I don't know. That's just a theory I have on it. That kind of fits the bill with the creatures of nature. That's a typical thing for them to do. At the ones that eat this type of stuff. One week I seen a bunch of termites on it. Come back a week later, there was absolutely none.
So something may have been getting those. So what else would eat termites? What else would have been had a motivation to get into that
Um,
stump and eat the termites?
be honest with you, I can't recall off the top of my head. There's birds that would do it. Maybe, um, maybe like possums or armadillos. Something along that line would be about the only two off the top of my head I could think about. Besides, there is several reports of Bigfoots eating termites, which is a a uh, oh, I just brain farted. Behavior of the ape species, monkeys and apes, primates. That's behavior
Primates, yeah.
with primates is doing that stuff. There's several documentations of primates doing that.
So there were two areas where we put those boxes, and both areas had Bigfoot prints close by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how about, we put a lot of those stuffed animals up in the trees, or have any of those been touched?
No, they're all everything that we hung in the tree as far as the bag of stuffed animals, they weren't touched.
And we put some of those that blue material up around. Any of that missing or gone?
No, it's still there.
So something was motivated by getting into that tree trunk,
Mm-hmm.
as well as something wanted into that peanut butter. Now that peanut butter
Yeah.
jar had never been opened. It had a sealed on it. I don't think you could have smelled that. I mean, and it was inside the box. So,
Well, I mean,
what are your thoughts on that?
it is proven that can smell that even though it's sealed. So there's a very good theory that scientific, shown that a lot of these animals can smell that stuff even though we can't. So the theory of them not being able to smell it, I'm not a big subscriber on that because there's just too much evidence of animals we do know exist that can do it. And I'm a firm believer if they can, then these cryptids can as well.
Were any of those footprints that you saw good enough to get a cast of them?
Sadly, no. It's you remember my area. My area is very hard, very rocky. It's rare that I can get a good enough print to get a cast on. The pictures I got, you can make out the toes a little bit and the feet, the foot a little bit, but most of the time it's the shape that's what you're going to find, and that's what I found out there around then was the shape. When I wear a size 9 boot, and when I put my boot next to it, it stuck out a little bit past my boot.
Yeah, I remember last time it was hard. We saw the indention and especially the heel and then you could see the toes, but it was not very, very clear. There was a lot of underbrush there as well, you know, even though it did sink down, you almost had to have some wet soil to be able to get anything, I'm pretty sure, of
Yeah.
that. So
And
last time we were there, you were having a lot of experiences with just, you know, kind of knowing they were around, and they were actually leaving things on your front porch the last time we did the interview. Have you had any more of that type of activity?
from what they have left on my porch so far, I can't remember what was left on my porch before we talked last time, but I've had two different kinds of the closest type of skull you can, it's not the exact same, but it's the closest one we can find is a bulldog skull. And it was little bulldogs, which we don't have little bulldogs anywhere around here. So I don't know where these skulls come from, but it's not an exact match, but that is the closest thing that we can match it to. I've even had a literally a Little Caesars box left on my porch. Um, and I haven't had Little Caesar here in quite a few years. I've had it, but it's always been in Springfield, not here on the property. So, and the weird thing about these skulls in that pizza box is, I'd come in, I'd go outside, it's not there, come back in, grab some more things, because I'm always going out changing batteries in my game cans or SIM cards. And if I don't have enough stuff, I got to come back in and go back out. And it's usually when I go back after I come in and start to head right back out, just that couple minutes it took me to come in to gather up what I need to gather up and head back out is when I'll come out and that stuff's on my porch.
Yeah,
So when I
I
first had that
remember.
stuff, I was,
Yeah, I remember you
yeah,
talking about that.
yeah,
That, you know, it's kind of an interesting thing. And they used to only be there, you know, kind of fall and spring, but we were there like more late summer, not really into fall, and there was evidence that they were there then. I wonder why you only
yeah,
hear vocals in the fall and spring, if now it looks like that they're there a little bit longer than that.
yeah. So when my mom and before she, before that happened to her, and before my dad left, after that sad ordeal, and I took over the property. Um, Normally we only seen them from mid to late fall to early to mid spring. And they knew when I go to work, and over here in this area where we put that other setup at, right next to my driveway, I would hear whoops from them when I leave for work in the morning. And that's when I always raise my hand. Hey guys, all right, well, I'm headed to work. I'll see you later. I mean, that's how I communicate with them. I mean, I've lived with them for 32 years. I'm used to it. And that's what I've always done. And then once the sad deal with mom happened and dad had moved away, I started having activity slowly more and more to the point now they're here all year round. I go out in the woods now and I still find prints and tree manipulations to this day. I can go right out there right now and did it. I haven't been out in the woods since I found that last stuff, because when I was done recording and I grabbed my evidence collection kit, gathered up that peanut butter jar, because I wanted to keep that just in case it is Bigfoot related and there's some type of DNA. I have that sealed in a plastic evidence bag, placed in a paper evidence sack, and I've got that sealed off, set in the way, because I don't want to take a chance something happening, and I may have some kind of evidence. So when I get a little bit of money, then I'll save up and have a DNA test done to it.
Well, tell me
Uh,
on that jar, is there any kind of evidence of a fingerprint?
Not that I can tell. There was several small scratches and looks like some kind of weird tooth mark on there, which that very well could be a small animal. Um, and they could have got it to it after the jar was done. I don't know if it was done by them or it was done after. I don't know. Um, I've got all that. That's on my videos. It's on my channel as well. But I want to notate that because that's very important to keep in mind too, because there's always other variables to it. So this looks like it was either something small or a small animal that had been messing with it. Um, so I mean, I can't keep a closed mind on it. I have to put that out there on it as well. And like I
Yeah.
said, that was either done by them or done afterwards, where they cleaned it, finished it up.
Yeah, true. It could be more than one thing involved here
Mhm.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know
Yeah.
that when we were out there before, you said you got a lot of strong emotions and impressions when they're around, and kind of not
Mhm.
maybe total mind speak, but almost like mind speak from them. Have you had any more of that
Mhm.
happen?
Yes, actually, I kind of upsetted them when I went out there multiple times when I found that peanut butter jar and that other stuff, and I was recording this and talking about it and gathered it up. I upset them again. So that's why I kind of backed out. I haven't been back in the woods since. Like I just kind of stepped back. I was like, I want to let it calm down. Usually that's what happens when I get that feeling that they're upset. I stay out of the woods. And that's happened every single time. Like if I'm getting ready to go to the woods, I get that feeling you don't need to be in here. I don't go in there. If I absolutely have to, I have no choice, and I'm packing pretty heavy. Thank God, nothing's happened yet. Doesn't mean it won't ever happen, but it hasn't happened yet. I go in, get my stuff done, and I get out quick. And I've never had an issue because of that. Um, but I think it's because they kind of know me and how I am. And the fact is, they know I'm not going out there to disturb them. I just got to get this done and I'm getting out. I don't linger around. Like times that I have good feelings and it's okay for me to be out there, I linger. I love being in my woods. And I never have an issue. So from time to times I get that. And then I got a really strong feeling, much like that day that we was recording out there when I was out there gathering this stuff up and recording this stuff. About the third time I went out in the woods to get the rest of the stuff I needed is when that feeling hit.
Yeah. Now you've never had the infrasound though. It's always just been an emotional kind of like warning.
Right. Now, I mean, I've had vocals, like when the year I bought the property, this was around July. This was the first time they were on my property during that time frame was July. Dad had his camper out here in the center drive, and I was out there visiting while I was kind of watching a movie with him. I felt something shake the camper. Well, I thought it was my youngest daughter playing a trick on me. Even though I know she's scared to death of the dark, that's what I thought it was. Thought I heard something walking around on the roof. The camper was shaking, so I thought it was her messing with us. When I stepped outside that door, started heading back to my house, is when and these things, the best way I can describe it is like a 700 pound freaking one, try to make a owl hoot. You know how the hoot owls, hoo, 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 hoo. Well, they were trying to mimic that, but it was so loud that it was kind of hurting my ears and I could feel it vibrating in my chest. Much bigger than an owl. And then right after that, they did three similar dog barks. And then right after that was three kind of weird bird calls. Every single one of them kind of hurt my ears a little bit and vibrated in the chest. Outside of that, mostly what they do is like when they want to let me know they're here is a whoop, whoop, whoop. It's something like that. And I can't do it exact. That's about as close as I can get to it. But that's generally what I get. This last time was the first time I caught chatter, the heard chatter. That's actually a new one, and that's happened since we've done the Byways Bigfoot documentary.
Mhm.
Um, that was the first time I've ever heard chatter.
You
So
know,
that has been in three.
yeah. Have you
Mhm.
been back down to the river on the Niangua to see if there's any more activity down that way?
I haven't yet. I've been kind of healing from an injury, and then every time it seems like I get healed, I got sick. So I have not been able to go out and travel. My daughter goes down there,
Mhm.
but I
Well,
haven't myself.
I've had several reports since we made Byways of Bigfoot. Um, one was maybe the same Bigfoot, but it was on two different properties, and it's just
Hmm.
not very far from the Niangua River at all, not far from where we saw prints. But there were two
Hmm.
sightings. One on a farm that a man said, he didn't know he was looking at a Bigfoot. It was probably a juvenile of some sort, but he didn't know he was looking at a Bigfoot, and he wondered if some monkey or something had escaped from a zoo. But he could see it, and then the guy who owned the farm across the road from him was starting to see it as well. So that's not far from you at all, and really, really close to the Niangua River. But both of those sightings that came in several years ago, but still, that's we know that they're out there because they've been seen. Then another one was down there by the Charity Access Point where we filmed, and found quite a bit of evidence down that way as well, right after that
Hmm.
rain. And there were some
Hmm.
people down there getting ready to float or fish or something down on the river. some guys came out of the woods up there by the cliff where we filmed and where there was a lot of evidence up that way. They came out from there and they said, warned them that to be cautious because they had seen a Bigfoot up that way.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
not far
there's a
from you.
lot
So.
of no. I would love to talk with them guys that had those encounters that's close by, because I love to check that area out. Because it's just something. So when I was younger, it took a long time to get the old timers to talk about this type of stuff. I mean, they had to get to know you and trust you, which I had a very good rapport with a lot of the old timers back when I was younger. Sadly, a lot of them are no longer with us. But I used to hear encounters of this stuff all the time, and they would tell me about it. And that's when I learned about the phrase booger. See, I came from St. Joe, Missouri. Up in St. Joe, we call them Momo. When I had my very first experience at 12, great grandpa says, "Don't go out in the woods, boy. Momo's been spotted." Well, I thought he was full of crap. Me and my brothers were out there playing hide and go seek, and that's when I found my very first Bigfoot footprint. And I've been a believer ever since. So when I got down here, when we moved down here where I'm at now, and they get talking, and I was working these farms with the old timers, the dairy farms, beef farms, chicken farms, hog farms, mucking stalls, doing whatever. Finally, they get down and we get talking about it. It's like, yeah, we got boogers here. I was like, well, blow your nose. And they're like, no, son, a booger, a Bigfoot. I was like, oh, no kidding. So we get to talking to them, and you get to hearing the stories from these old timers, and it's amazing what you can hear from them. You just got to get them to open up.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't know what they're looking at and they don't know how to describe it to you, and they don't know what to do with that piece of material. So these two sightings, those set without anyone being really aware of what they were talking about for a long time. And it wasn't really until, I started, talking with some people that knew of that report. Well, I wouldn't even call it a report, but just, talking to the people that had seen it to know that, wow, that is really, really close to where we were filming down there on the Niangua. Another thing that's come in is reports of orbs and lights all along that Niangua. Have you seen any of those down there?
So when it comes to orbs, 99% of what I've dealt with orbs has been on paranormal investigations. Now, I have had one instance when I was younger, probably 14, 15 years old, where I had a really bright one shoot from the woods, come at me, and I fell to the ground because I thought it was going to hit me, and then it shot up. Now, if you listen to the stories, that could be a type of fairy. Basically, the orbs, that's the two I've dealt with. As far as seeing them, the only time I've ever caught them besides that one time has been on video camera. So I haven't physically seen orbs besides the stuff that fly around in the sky at night. That's just been my experiences with them, and visually, the only time was that once.
Well, some people I talked to since we did Byways of Bigfoot was talking about the Niangua. They lived just south of that Charity Access Point, actually south of also of the Niangua conservation area. So that the river isn't far from where we filmed, isn't far from where they live, but they would go down to that river often, and they could see orbs down there a lot. But not only orbs, but they also had UFO craft coming over that area.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in here. I don't know what happened to my video camera, so I'm gonna have to try to do it by phone. But if I can get a clear night, I've been having kind of issues, and the clear nights that I haven't seen them. But that's a very common sight out here. I've had a lot of people. It's like, man, I don't believe in UFOs. It's like, well, come out to my house if you don't believe in UFOs, and we'll be getting there talking. And I'll say, now look right up there, and you'll see these these white. I call them orbs, white orbs, because that's what they look like. Because they're so far up there, dancing around and doing different tricks in the night sky. And I've had a lot of people go, "Holy crap, you weren't lying." No, I mean, this is the type of stuff that's out here. We see that stuff out here all the time.
Yeah. I'm sure you do. Now, I know before when we were talking, you said that there was some dogman, maybe even activity out that way. Have you seen anything like that lately?
So dogman is highly reported along the Niangua River as well. Very highly reported. I remember one time, I think it was mid or late 90s, along W Highway, which follows along the Niangua River. We had a lot of cattle and a lot of livestock being mutilated or killed. So well, we at that time we thought it was cougar related because we actually caught a cougar on game cam. Conservation argued and argued and argued. No, we don't have cougars out here. I was like, you're full of crap. I've seen them with my own eyes. I've been hunted by them. We've got game cam pictures. We have these things out here. They were trying to blame it on a pack of bull mastiffs. Well, if anybody knows things about a bull mastiff, they're not going to go around just killing livestock. They're lazy until they don't have to be lazy. You know, that's a wonderful thing about them dogs. It wasn't until years later when I started studying stuff on dogman and werewolf and wolfman that I started realizing a lot of these attacks on this livestock fits the bill of these creatures. The fronts of their necks were ripped out. Their bellies were gashed open. There was large claw marks down their sides. And this was the type of stuff that was happening to our horses and our pigs and our cattle all along the W Highway a few years ago. Back in, like I said, late 90s. But it fits the bill with a lot of that stuff. You know, a cougar will attack from behind and come and jump on the back of your neck and latch hold. They love to attack from above. These things it was completely different. There's instances out here that, you know, when I felt something in the area, it did not feel like my normal, you know, guest that I have out here. It was something a little different. As far as physically seen them, I don't know. I've heard weird howls at night. I know I have wolves. I have red wolves and I have Missouri timber wolves out here. But their howls is not near as loud as sometimes you'll hear out here. There's times out here you hear some really, really loud howls. You can tell they're off in the distance, but even off in that distance, it's extremely loud. So it'd be much louder than our local wolves.
Yeah, exactly. How about those trail cams that you have out there? Have you picked up anything else on those?
Oh, Lord have mercy, have I? So I've caught some weird things on there, yeah. Here recently, I had to replace a game cam that went down. In fact, the one that was in the bottom, close by the footprints that when we were filming, that thing that one broke down, so I got a new one. Well, I stuck it in a new location because I'm trying to see if they're using my woods road to come up into my field behind my place. I've caught best way I can describe it, it's like a dark cylinder shape twice on there. Now, a couple of people I've talked to, Jessica Jones, William Nighthawk, they both said it's on a portal. William even said he's seen elementals coming out of it. I've caught that twice. Once full on, the next day, kind of part of it to the right of my deal. Just the other day, do you remember I sent you that picture of that hand, that brown fingers that grabbed that game cam actually it broke down.
Yeah.
Grabbed it from the right side and pulled it. I just had another one of those happen, same location.
So something is messing with the cameras.
Yeah.
And you're able to catch the cylinder thing. It's a dark cylinder. Is it right in the middle of the camera or just kind of off to the side, or do you get the full grasp of it or a portion of it?
So the first night that this caught, it's a black cylinder, goes from top to bottom, right dead center of the screen with kind of a grayish outline to it. That was the first night. The second night I only caught half of it because it was halfway to the inside, the right side of my screen and halfway out. Same thing, straight black all down the center with a grayish outline to the side of it.
Well, that's different. Because I don't think that had happened before. What's your sense or your feeling about it?
I knew it was something weird and strange. I try to debunk it. You know me, I'm the type of person I love to debunk stuff because that's the only way you're going to get the truth is if you try to debunk it. If you can't debunk it, you're pretty much stuck there. So my first thought, okay, it's a snake that crawled down my lens. Then I got thinking this was done at late. This was done at 12:09. My camera does a test shot at 12:09. So whatever this was did not trigger my camera. Every single night, 12:09, this camera, my game cam does a test shot. And that's how this stuff was caught. Even the hand, even the fingers in the fog I got on this latest one did not trigger my camera. This was all done during a test shot. No, actually, I think that one may have triggered my camera. I can't remember. I got to look at the date on it. So this stuff did not set my camera off. And I was like, this is weird. So I was like, okay, so it can't be a snake. It's 12:09 at night. It's not going to be a snake. So I was like, maybe it's a squirrel. Then I got thinking, yeah, squirrels do come out at night, but usually at that time of night, they're done for the night. They're not going to be back out. So I alleviated that. And then Jessica says, well, could it be an insect? I was like, possibly, but usually when I get an insect on my on my on my game cam, it shows white because the reflection of the flash makes them look white. Even the bats, when the bats fly in front of my game cams, they're very whitish, kind of real light gray. And this is kind of what they're like. Well, this wasn't that way. It was pure dark with like a kind of a grayish outline following the shape of this dark cylinder like thing.
Well, that's interesting. And you caught it on there twice.
Mm-hmm. 2 nights in a row.
2 nights in a row. And how often do you check those the footage on that camera?
So that cam takes at the same time, 12:09 every single night. It takes a test photo, and that's how these two were caught, was these test photos. The fingers was on a different camera, so I could be mistaken. That could be what triggered it. I just remembered that.
So, but
how
often do you look at the footage from those?
Every day, because it takes a test shot every day. So every day I'm looking at it. The only reason I have not caught anything besides this cylinder and my daughter on it. My daughter likes to wave at me on it from time to time. I have not caught anything else on this game cam. And I'm getting ready to move it. So I was like, okay, this is not a good location. I'm not picking up anything. I need to move this game cam. That's when I find the cylinders. And I haven't moved it since, hoping that I catch something else.
How about around those, how about around those cylinders? Did you see anything unusual in the area, like any footprints, any kind of unusual breakage of trees, anything like that around there?
No, everything looks perfectly normal.
Well, that's a mystery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, I know, William Nighthawk. For those who don't know him, he's a Lakota medicine man, a very dear friend of mine. He's constantly telling me about the elementals I've got around me and around here. So when he looked at it, he goes, brother, that's a portal. And you can see the elementals coming out of this portal. I'm like, I never really put that together. I mean, I when I first saw it, I'm not going to lie, my first thought was portal. That's what it resonated to me through the energy was portal. But I was like, I can't call it that. I need to get an outside opinion on it because my opinion can dilute the truth. So I never said anything to anybody. I was like, hey, I sent these out. Do you mind looking at these pictures? Tell me what you think. And I never told him what I thought it was. And, William right off bat said, this is this here. He outlined it. He circled it. I kind of showed those on one of my Saturday shows. And then, me and Jessica broke it down. Could it be this? Could it be this? Could it be this? It's a possibility, but this is normally what happens. And then she remote viewed it and says, I get portal. And I'm like, holy crap. So not only am I thinking that right off the bat, but I've got 2 other people saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's when I start getting excited because now I've got 3 confirmations on what this could be.
Well, I keep an eye on it because it might return, or you might get some other evidence around there, regarding that. So since
that's why I haven't moved it.
Since all of this has happened in the last year, just since we filmed Byways of Bigfoot, have any of your thoughts or ideas about Bigfoot changed, or any new awareness, or any new just any new knowledge about it?
No, I'm still pretty firm on the old Native American teachings when it comes to that stuff. Just because with my experiences and the fact that our Native people lived with them and traded and warred and lived next to them, their knowledge on these things is going to be far better than what any of ours is. So my feelings are still the same. I still get ones that come up in my window, like when I'm working on my desk here, writing my books or whatever, doing my research. I'll still get one that comes up and taps on my window, and I go to look out. Of course, it's dark and I can't see nothing. I still have that. Sometimes I still feel like I'm being watched through my windows. But it's so far, for the most part, it's been just like it always has been for 32 years. It's pretty peaceful. We just coexist together. The only thing different I've done this year is I've got most of my field cleaned out now. So I've let my flowers and stuff like that grow because I'm very big on land management, especially when it comes to wildlife, cryptids, supernatural stuff like that. I'm very, very big onto that because that's a very, very good practice if you want that stuff in your area to do. So I started doing that more this year because I've got enough of my field where I can do that. And it seems like now I'm getting even more activity coming out.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like a lot has transpired since we wrapped up that first documentary on the Niangua and your property out there. And of course, there's a whole lot more of the Niangua going on up to Lake of the Ozarks to travel through. Have you been up that way next to Bennett Springs and on up the Niangua?
No, I've got a case I've got to go investigate down at Spring River of a possible werewolf sighting. But my truck's been broke down. I just got an engine put in my truck, and I've over $8,000 later, I finally got my truck up and running. Between the engines and everything else I had to replace on it. So I've not had a chance to go out and do a lot of these investigations and check a lot of these hot spots out like I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm getting reports in on certain stuff. Like they're telling me there's a portal on Carthage right now. So I'm trying to get ready to go down there. I've got some other document series that me and DA Roberts is going to do that, now that I'm able to get around, I need to start getting out there and doing that.
Absolutely. There's a
So
lot to investigate, especially along that river.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there is. Actually, what's funny is this ain't along the Niangua River, but a few months ago, I had two different separate reports along J Highway, which runs for me west over towards Everton. Everton's where I done that video with DA on the paranormal investigation of the Shade Beaver Bar and Grill in Everton, Missouri. So along this highway, I get a call one day. He's like, "Okay, dude, I've got a question for you." I was like, "Hey, what's up?" He goes, "I just seen the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life." And this is probably about 20, 30 miles from my house, to the west. He goes, "I seen this thing roughly 4 foot tall." He goes, I don't know what to call it. He goes, "It looked like a bear. It kind of looked like a cat maybe, and it had horns." I said, "I think I know what it is." So I looked up a picture and I sent it to him. He goes, "That's it. That's exactly what I saw." I said, "Buddy, that was an Ozark howler." And then a few days later, he goes, "Man, I just seen something else weird." He goes, how tall is how tall is the top part of the sign from the bottom of the road?" Because I'm a sign guy. I said, "Well, the top of your 911s to the bottom of the road is roughly 12 foot. And he goes, "I just seen yellow eyes looking over the top of a set of 911s along J Highway, a couple miles from where you seen the Ozark howler."
Sounds like a lot of activity out there. Of course, if you're out looking for it, you're going to find something because there's all kinds of unknowns and all kinds of cryptids all over the Ozarks. That's for sure. We have a lot of woods, we have a lot of water, and a lot of game.
Well, and a lot of people forget something very important about the Ozarks. And this can explain a lot of things. Not only do we have an extreme amount of cave systems so that they can use to travel around, the Ozark Mountains is one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world. There is a lot of very old magic in these Ozark Mountains. And if you study these cryptids and this paranormal and supernatural, they're attracted to spots like that. So I'm a firm believer might be one of the reasons why we have so much of this activity here in the Ozarks, is because of the old magic that's in these mountains.
Yeah, that's probably right. I mean, it is true. This is an old area. And just a lot of things have happened in this spot. So I'm getting ready to wrap it up. Eric, what do you want to leave us with? What do you want the audience to know about your place out there and the latest Bigfoot stuff?
Man, it's out there. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I've had pretty much all peaceful stuff. There's only one incident in that this winter that I had that actually scared the holy living tar out of me. And I just done a show on Wendigo. And I said the name too many times. I never believed in saying something like name of the SW or the big W, that it would bring them in. But what I had happened to me this winter, that's why I only say the name very few times, because of what happened. I mean, that was the most scared I've ever been on my life on my property. I mean, this thing was hunting me, whatever it was. Be smart about it. Even though I've lived with these things for 32 years and I've had peaceful encounters with them, all it takes is one. It takes one of them to have a bad day, or one of them is just, he's not a very nice dude, to end that belief that these things are you're slapping a leg, smoking and joking type of friend. I mean, you're not going to have that with them, period. I don't even have that with them, but it's the same concept. They're going to be friendly, but it just takes one to take something that's been friendly and kind and an amazing experience to make it no more.
That's true.
So
You
be
have to
very
be
smart
careful.
about it.
Be cautious about
Yeah.
it. You know, I went out and filmed quite a bit for Byways of Bigfoot by myself, and I look back on that and I thought, well, that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but it was broad daylight, and I didn't really think we'd find as much evidence as we found. Little did I know that they were all over the place out there.
Oh yeah, we've got them all over out here. That's what I love about it is I'm always finding new evidence because we have so much activity out here. And I love it. I think it's great. I'm truly honored to be able to have this experience because not a lot of people have this type of experiences. And I'm truly blessed to be able to experience this stuff as often as I do. I'm also in a very good location. I'm also very in tune with my land, and I think a lot of that plays into why you have that happen. If you are so there's an old Native American proverb. Your thoughts soar through the air like an arrow on an open field. If you think I'm going to do this, these things pick up on it. So like when you're hunting deer, you can't think I'm hunting deer because deer's going to pick up on them thoughts, and therefore you won't see them. You got to have a clear mind, a clear consciousness. You got to think differently. I'm a firm believer that these cryptids and all this other stuff, the supernatural and paranormal stuff, is the exact same way. So when I'm going out there to do stuff, I'm not going out there going, "Hey, I'm going to find evidence," or I'm going to have this. I'm Joe Blow smoking around in the woods having a good time, and then I find all this stuff and I have all this activity. It's if you have negative in you, they're going to feed that negative, and you're not going to have an experience. If you have a long desire to, I'm going to find this and I'm going to see this, you're not going to have that experience. You have to go in to looking at stuff with a clear mind and a positive attitude. I believe
Yeah,
they strongly believe they feed off of that.
it makes a big difference. And I think they're willing to show themselves or give evidence to those who show respect more often than not. I was very thrilled to know we got some backup evidence in that area, some eyes on a Bigfoot, two of them, three of them actually, if you count down by the river as well. You know, after we filmed, it was definitely worth the effort. Well, I thank you, Eric, for sharing all the information. Thanks for giving us the update on the property and the boxes and the peanut butter and all of the things that that you're still looking out for. So, and how do people find your YouTube channel?
So you go to YouTube to the Bizarre and the Unknown, and you'll find me. I guess I'm not live, so you can't see my logo. I usually have the logo behind me. It's got a gugwee with a mountain man in a forest with a moon. You see that logo? That's me. It's round because of the Great Circle of Life, so I have that logo round for that reason right there. Yeah, you can find me there. I'm always doing some kind of show. I'm on all different kinds of show. This is like I'll be on 7 different ones, or have 7 different shows done this weekend by the time I'm done tonight. But I'm usually on Saturday afternoons, 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, and on Sundays, I'm on at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Saturdays is my campfire chats. It's a safe place for you to come and share your encounters. I'll bring you on live if you want to be live to share it, or you can just talk about it and chat. I'm a firm believer in if we don't share our encounters, we lose them encounters and we can't learn. We learn from our encounters.
I think
And
you're right.
that show was actually created right by my subscribers. Sundays is my regular formal show, which I'm going to do part 2 of the Fae. I tried to do that last week, had a lot of internet issues. So it didn't come out as good as the production as I wanted it to. So I'm going to redo that show on tonight. So Saturday nights and Sunday nights is always my lives.
Sounds good. Keep it up. Let us know. Keep us informed.
No problem. Yeah, you were the first person I called when that happened because I was like a kid in a candy store. I was like, dude, I got to call Linda.
Yeah, I was glad you did. It's always nice to know any
Heck
activity
yeah.
out there way. Yeah, that was fun. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end now, Eric. Thank you so much for sharing all the information with us. We'll stay in touch and probably do another show later on.
Sounds great. Thank you so
Okay.
much.